Hey everybody, welcome back to another live trading video. Today we're taking a look at EURUSD. I'm about to take a short position, and before I do so, let's do some chart markups. I'll go ahead and enter super speed so you guys can watch me do my markups, and then I'll come back and share my thoughts. Okay, so a little stopping point here. What we can see is that on the 4-hour chart, we've got several instances where price has been trying to break out of this level, but on each attempt, we have seen a good little rejection. And as we go into this trade, we're starting to see that happening right now. Now, one thing that may be a bit of a contention point, people might say, well, hey, Nick, what you're seeing here is you're seeing higher lows. Doesn't that look like a bullish sentiment? And perhaps that is the case. And we're going to talk about stop loss placement in a second. But this is what we would call a counter trend in what we identified on the daily chart as a major trend, right? Major trend, there we go. The major trend is still to the downside, right? On the daily chart, the 4-hour chart, we scroll out, you can see it's still trending down overall. So this little minor trend or counter trend is something that I am looking to actually sell into on a retest. Okay, so with that said, we'll go ahead and actually talk a little bit about stop loss placement. So we talked about the daily chart. We've identified a 4-hour level of resistance that looks good for the trade. And now it's time to talk about stop loss placement. So we zoom into the 1-hour chart for a second. Check this out. Now that we're poked in on the lower time frames, take a look at what's been happening. Price has shot up with a lot of conviction, but seen pretty staunch rejection from the sellers. We're expecting for that to happen, and if it doesn't, we need to get out of there, right? Very, very simple idea with this trade. I'm liking the fact that this is starting to reject, and I'm not worried about catching every single pip, so I'm still willing to take a short at current levels as we are sitting in supply at the 4-hour chart level. I'm really basing this trade off the 4-hour chart primarily, but with the 1-hour chart in mind, I'm gonna go ahead and now place the trade. So we'll go back into super speed and I'll get that sorted out for us. Okay, so I'm about ready to go ahead and place the trade. I do want to just say one thing I forgot to talk about was the targets idea on this trade. Now, of course, what I like to do, if you watch my videos long enough, as you know, I tend to like to trail stops. So I'm not actually going for a strict take profit per se, but what I do like to do is identify points on the chart where we have very, very key levels of previous support where buyers were previously. And at these levels, what I like to do is go ahead and trail my stop loss more aggressively. So I've highlighted 2 areas here with my target idea, and those are going to be key spots on the chart where we're going to be looking to at least trail a good bit of the stop loss on this trade. So it's just kind of my checkpoint levels basically. Okay, I think we're good to place the trade. So again, we're going to go for 60 pips and not 630, we want 60 pips. We're going to risk $200 on this trade because I do have another trade that I'm going to be taking shortly after this that I've already identified. So we are going to take a very small position on this one and we'll go from there. So, okay, we are good and we're into the trade. We can now remove this. And what I like to do just for clarity is I'll just go ahead and add my lines here so I can see my orders a little bit better. Bam, bam. All right, and there we go. And now the trade is live. Now I'll need to pause the video and make sure I update members. Okay, so I just made the update on my trade and here it is. So I just sent this out to members. And what you can see here is I wrote up basically what we were talking about. Supply zone, overall nice downward trend on the higher time frames. The Edge Finder also gives us a sell, which we'll talk about in just a moment. And I also attached the picture with my targets at this structure point and the previous low in mind for where we could potentially look to scale this trade in really big time. The Edge Finder gives this thing a sell. Let me go ahead and show you guys the full view. So here was the scan where I started the analysis. So generally speaking, what I'm looking for is I'm looking for pairs that are on the lower half of the spectrum to sell. I'm looking for things on the upper half to buy. So we get sell readings on the Euro USD here. And what we can do is we can take a look at the individual view of the Euro USD and take a look at some of the metrics that I pointed out to members just a moment ago. Some of the highlight things were things like retail sentiment, which we'll take a look at in a second, COT data, and of course, going with that, the smart money traders that are currently primarily long on the dollar. So taking a look at that, what we can do is break this down a little bit, and we can see that the score gets a -3. Let's break this down for a second, what the scanner has us seeing on the euro dollar. Look at this, retail sentiment. The crowd is 58% long. That's a pretty heavy bias towards the crowd wanting to buy this currency pair. So if the crowd is wanting to buy it, we know that the crowd tends to lose money. And if retail data is telling us that, okay, yeah, the crowd is going long, we need to be probably a bit careful about going long ourselves. In fact, maybe even considering going short. So that is just under 60%, which would give us a -1. We didn't get it quite there, but it's very, very close. COT data, this is one of the big ones. So institutional data tells us that the commitment of traders is favoring the US dollar big time. So compared to the dollar, 88% of open positions on the futures market on the US dollar are on the long side of things, which gives us a strong bias towards USD. Conversely, Euro USD, Euro is much less favored. In fact, slightly more favored to the short side. So this is giving us a bearish bias. And again, this is what we use the scanner for. So all that said and done, that's how I found the pair to look at. And then I really like the technical setup. So from here, what we're gonna do is we're going to pause the video. I'm gonna give this some time and we'll come back once the trade has made some progress, whether it's a loss or a win. I'll still put it up on YouTube for educational purposes. Remember, if you'd like to join the Discord, the link will be down below in the description to sign up for the VIP group. It is a service that our team here at A1 Trading provides, and all of that information will be linked at the very top of the description. Just a quick update on Euro USD. Nothing has really happened yet.
What are you blabbering about? Nothing happened.
And this is just gonna happen sometimes. I just wanted to showcase that, you know, this is the next morning. It's been some time. I've been waiting patiently and nothing has happened, right? We're still just oscillating right at this level of resistance, and that's totally okay. And now let's pause until something actually exciting happens.
Well, what are you waiting for?
I don't know. Something amazing, I guess.
All right, guys, so some time has passed since my Euro USD position was first open. We've had a nice move here in the direction of my trade. Of course, sold up in this area. You can see the red arrow there. And now since then, we've seen some really nice follow through to the downside and currently floating around $400 on the trade. Now, of course, $400, that's not a lot of money, but for the little amount of time that I'm actually having to spend to create this trade and do my market analysis, this is very worth my time and effort, especially since I've had some other great trades this week as well. So I'm a little bit of a hot streak right now, which is great. Let's see if we can keep it going. Now, in terms of this trade specifically, it's time to lock in a little bit on the trade. What I really liked here about price action this morning, as I'm looking at it now, is that we actually broke through what was a level of demand. You can actually see, looking left, that this area was a huge spot for bulls, pushing off each time that we came down into this 1.048 level. Well, this morning, we actually got a very, very strong candle on the 4-hour chart that closed underneath that zone. That to me is a huge cue that, okay, that's really strong for the bears.
The bears. The bears.
We should see continuation to the downside. And if we don't, then it's probably time to get out of the trade. So in that case, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to trail my stop loss just above market structure here. So if I go ahead and lock this in, what we can see is we've got $200 locked into the trade now. As soon as I hit this, so modify, there we go. So there we go, we're all set, and I'll bring this so we can see where the stop loss is a little bit visually better. I just like to extend it a bit. And so there we go. So now what we've done here is we've said, okay, the trade has moved in our favor. Let's take the risk off the table. No need to keep that stop loss up here. But not only that, we went beyond just break even. Now we're going ahead and trailing that stop loss into profit. So now this trade, theoretically, if it rallies from here, will be a very small profit. $200 is nothing crazy. I mean, I'd be happy to make $200, but I think there may be some more on the table here for the euro dollar, especially if we start seeing a move down to the next major spot, which also, let me go ahead and make this supply. So there we go. We're expecting from here that this level should, if the trend is strong to the downside, continue to hold for sellers. Okay, that out of the way, we know we'll stop out here for 215 bucks or whatever. And if this market really goes, then what we're expecting is for this thing to start heading back down to the previous swing low, that target idea here. If price makes its way down to that level, so if we zoom in here and we start seeing, okay, we've seen the break, let's say, we see this overall continuation to the downside. If we see that, then in that point, what we're going to do is we're going to really start trailing the stop, because we know that there could be a nice bounce coming for the bulls from there. So we may very well want to just lock in a good bit of profit in case it starts to reverse. If it doesn't, again, we'll repeat the process and say, well, if that level breaks, we'll continue to trail stops and see how far we can go. Really, the reason I love this style of trading, and this is why I've been doing it for so long, of course, I take a lot of little losers. My win rate is not that very high. So if you're not a person that likes low win rate trading styles, this is not for you. But for me, I like it a lot because I'll win a very few number of trades. But when I win, the cool thing is that the potential win is actually technically unlimited, because if I continue to trail stops forever, if that ever happens, then, it'll just become a bigger and bigger winner. So, that's where I'm at with the trade. So we'll see if we can catch a bigger winner here. We're floating again $400 on the trade with a locked in $200 overall, which would be a nice little position there. So we'll see if we can get some more movement to the downside there and go from there. So what I'll do is I'll pause the video and we'll come back once things get moving again. All right, you guys, we are now seeing euro dollar move pretty dang well. We saw something really key here this morning in the early hours of the New York session and late, I guess, morning of the London session. We saw this big move to the downside, which is great. Of course, that's what we're rooting for here, and we're starting to see what looks to be a nice little flush to the downside, back down to the previous structure low around this area, right around 1.038. Now, at this point, what I'm going to go ahead and do is we have seen something pretty key from the bears. If we take a look at this, you can see that key spot that we talked about in the previous segment of this video. You can see we broke underneath that previous low. That was a huge deal for the sellers. Great news for us. But now there's something even more interesting that just happened, which is, of course, this little break here that happened. So take a look at what happened sort of in the aftermath of that big candle. We saw an attempt from buyers to rally, and that rally was squandered pretty dang quick, and now we sold underneath the lows yet again with a lot of conviction. What I'm going to go ahead and do here is, after seeing this little episode, this little instance of price action, I'm going to go ahead and move this stop loss from where it currently sits all the way down to right above that level there, which is going to lock in $325 on the trade. So if I click modify, there we go. So now we've locked in $326 of profit in the worst case scenario. That's pretty dang good. And also, let me go ahead and I like to do this with my thing so I can see exactly where the stop loss placement is. There it is. Okay, good. And now it is just a matter of waiting to see what happens once we get down into these areas. Of course, this was kind of the initial target. We've collapsed down very, very quickly here from my entry. This has only been a couple days of waiting on this trade. And so from here, it is just a matter of time to see if, well, can we get down to this area? And then, very importantly, how will we react down here? Will we just bounce with conviction back up? Or is this conviction to the downside going to lead to a massive breakout and perhaps a new fresh start to a nice breakout on the downside on euro dollar? Well, again, we don't know. We do have to respect what support is. There are buyers that have been historically very strong in these areas, so we're keeping that in mind. But again, the sellers are very strong right now and could potentially break this level. That's why sometimes people get very surprised when they see a level of support break. They're like, what the heck? I thought it was support. Well, remember that even in a supportive zone, if the market itself has a strong downward trend, it can still break those levels of support. So again, we have big support here, but we're trending lower. Big support, like over here, has to break for those big trends to happen, right? So we had a big support level, price breaks underneath, causing a flood to the downside. Will that happen again here? Well, that's what we're here to try and see. If that happens, of course, that'll be a great big trade, but we're gonna have to just play this the patient way. So we've got a nice move on our hands, we've locked in profits, so in any case, we will make money. And if this thing rallies off of support, we'll still make a profit of $326 just for taking the trade and minimal amounts of work and with pretty low lot size, to be honest. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and update members here inside of the Discord. Remember, take advantage of the Discord channel. There's a link down below in the description. And if you use that link and use the promo code YTVIP, you'll get a really big subscriber discount on joining any of our memberships. Again, link is down below in the description. All right, guys, and we are all out of the trade here on EURUSD. Price did ultimately break past our levels of resistance here, tagging us out of the trade on our trailed stop loss for a profit of around $325, somewhere in that neighborhood. Really happy with how this trade played out. Again, beautiful entry and held this thing all the way down through all this sell-off. And with these big green candles, I'm just gonna hop out, take my profit and get out of the way. We'll take the profit and we'll be happy with that. Again, seeing where we're rejecting very well off of this support level. So at the time being, I'm just gonna go ahead and bank my profits and perhaps look for another entry or another attempt to sell this thing in the future. But today we had a great trade, and this trade only took me a couple days of waiting and very little time to actually take and place the trade. So for 30 minutes of work, I'll take a $300 paycheck. That's kind of nice. Anyways, thank you very much for watching, guys. Make sure to hit the thumbs up button, subscribe if you're new, and see you next time. Looks like it's time for your next trading video. Check out the videos here and here for more free trading content that should help you in your trading journey. We try and keep it real here, so make sure to subscribe for more content that is down to earth, realistic Forex trading content. See you in the next video.